This is a pattern that I see with dismissive avoidants and fearful avoidants who lean to the avoidant side that might seem really confusing and painful and unusual to the person on the receiving end, but it happens quite frequently. Now, to be clear, I am not saying that this always occurs with DAs or FAs leaning DA, but I've heard this enough from clients and seen this pattern too many times not to communicate it to maybe help you get some clarity and relief. So this pattern is when the dismissive avoidance, and I'm going to use DA because I would say in my experience, just in my experience, that is the majority. When the dismissive avoidant gets close to wanting to break up with their partner and they're having a breakup conversation, they will first show quite a bit of emotion. There will be a conversation that is messy and intimate, and there may be tears. And I also often see the DA expressing some level of shame or disappointing their partner. You're too good for me. I can't give you what you deserve and what you want. So there will be an expression of vulnerability outwardly, verbally, and then the two part ways. And if there is another conversation later on, let's say a couple days, a couple weeks, sometimes even shorter, all of a sudden that same vulnerable DA is completely cold, completely shut down. They seem like they don't care. They can barely make eye contact. They are essentially trying to get away from you as fast as possible. This is excruciating and, like I said, extremely confusing to go through. So why does this happen? And I think understanding the why is important, not just for education, but also because it is so easy to personalize that as, what did I do in those last few days since we spoke? Or did they just realize they absolutely hate me and this relationship meant nothing to them? No. But to understand why this happens, we have to remember that the dismissive avoidant operates in the delta, the gap between their feelings and their fears. So when they meet you, their feelings are strong, they are very present, and they are able to communicate and express those emotions and even talk about the future and commitment because their fears are low. Their fears are down here. So they have a wide margin for that vulnerability. There's a big gap. As time goes on, it's not that the feelings necessarily change. And again, in my experience, I would say the feelings stay where they are. They stay high. It's the fears, like rising waters, that come up to meet the feelings. And so when that first conversation happens, when they are clearly visibly upset, I believe it is where they are almost at that line where their fears have superseded the feelings, but not quite yet. So the two are like this. So it's not that they don't care as much, it's that their fears are right here, right? Like about to drown them, essentially. And then what happens is, as they get that space, the water continues to rise, and eventually the fears supersede the feelings. And that is where their sympathetic nervous system, for them, it's going to typically be a freeze or a flee response takes over, and they are no longer the person that you know, because they are not the rest and digest parasympathetic person that you fell in love with. They are a nervous system activated reptilian brain, primally driven to safety person. And that's why it can feel like you're talking to a stranger. So it's not that they don't care. And in fact, the reason we know that they care is because they're so emotional in that last conversation. It's not that their feelings go away in just a few days or a few weeks. It's because they care that they have to eventually shut down, compartmentalize, deactivate, downregulate, maybe disassociate in order to survive on a nervous system level the pain that they are experiencing. I hope this is helpful. If you want more in-depth information about your attachment style, as well as taking an educated guess about your exes, I just launched a what is my attachment style checklist, and I called it a checklist instead of a quiz because I think one of the most confusing points about attachment theory is that we identify ourselves as this one thing, we silo ourselves into one style, and then we end up being confused about these parts of us that don't quite fit into us. And so I wanted to create a fillable, editable checklist so that you can see kind of what your different totals are for each attachment style. And I think that's going to provide you a new level of clarity and understanding And because it's editable and fillable, you can create copies of it so that you can kind of watch your attachment style change over time. So that is linked in the only link that is up there in my profile.